Hello and welcome to Ways Women Lead, the podcast where remarkable female leaders share their personal journeys and offer valuable guidance on advancing your career as a woman in leadership. Join host Anna Gromadska and her guests as they delve into various aspects of leadership, including diversity, equity, and inclusion. This podcast is brought to you by Six Group, a global executive search and leadership advisory firm.
Welcome to Ways Women Lead. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So let me share an introduction to why we're discussing the topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion today, and why your background is particularly interesting to explore further, to discuss further from the aspect of DEI. So very diversified career. Currently, you are a senior vice president for software product management at Stellantis. And for those who don't know, because actually Stellantis, the company as it is in the form it is right now, it's not that well known for people sometimes, even though it has produced some of the world leading brands like Alfa Romeo and Chrysler, Citroen, Fiat, Jeep, Maserati, Opel, Peugeot. So after all these brands, Stellantis is the company behind it. Before joining Stellantis, you were leading product management and user experience at companies such as Danone, Adidas, and Amazon. And here we start seeing the diversity of your background, which has been very interesting. Um, and you spent quite a lot of time at Amazon, actually. You've spent over 8 years progressing through roles of increased responsibility. And of course, you're a passionate diversity, equity, and inclusion champion, which is something that we'll delve into in a little bit more detail today. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. Again, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me and for this amazing introduction. It's, what should I say? It really helps with my imposter syndrome, just listening to all these things listed.
Do you know what? You're not the first person who is saying that. I've had my previous guests who reacted with the same comment. They said, "Wow, I didn't think about all the things that I've achieved until someone has summarized it for me." I guess maybe the takeout of it is that maybe we should take a little bit more time, more frequently, to reflect on our past achievements. But I'll let you to tell us more about it. So maybe to kind of warm up to this conversation, what is your leadership story and what have been the key milestones into your leadership journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So, not to turn it into, let's say, an interview Q&A at a job interview, but just to really summarize the key milestones specific to leadership, right? You already mentioned several great companies that I had a privilege to work at, and this is really what helped me a lot. From the beginning of my career, I should say I didn't really have a very clear idea of what exactly I want to do and even what exact profession I want to specialize in, because when I just started, product management was not really a thing. And I was just super curious about technology. I have applied mathematics background, but also I was always very interested in psychology and user experience, and actually also in change management. How can you transform the way people behave? And so combining all that, I believe that's really what helped me get to where I am today. But I was always very clear about what type of companies I'm actually interested in and I would like to work at. So at the very start of my career, actually, there was Volkswagen Group. So now I'm kind of back to automotive, making a full circle, so to say. But yeah, back then it was very different from what I see today in automotive. Different, but still in some aspects the same. And then also Adidas, and then also Danone, really all great companies, very international companies that helped me also shape my career and grow as a leader. But probably the biggest impact on my career still came at Amazon, where I truly had this kind of accelerated growth opportunities, because Amazon was growing, right? It was growing tremendously, like 10x, 50x in the years when I was there. And so, of course, that also helped me a lot, because then it's much easier, I would say, to get ahead, right? It's much easier to, let's say, jump on a journey that is already a success journey. Super hard, in my opinion, to get ahead if the company is actually in decline, right? So there will be a lot less opportunities. So with Amazon, I really had a chance to first observe amazing people and learn from them. Amazon is famous for its leadership principles, and the culture there, I would say, is very unique, especially thinking about its scale. Thanks to the leadership principles, they still managed to keep this culture ongoing, even though the company grows so much. And maybe if they didn't have the principles, it would actually be difficult to prevent this culture from diluting, but they managed to still keep it going. And so for me, that was just really the right environment, to grow in, to flourish in. And so I came at, let's say, senior professional, maybe lowest management rank. And I managed to get, let's say, to the director level product management position there within 8 years, which is, when I look back now, is pretty fast. But of course, back then it seemed to me that I was always stalled, and it's just so slow, and I'm ready for a lot more responsibility right away. So, but anyways, it worked out, and I'm actually very happy that thanks to, well, my ambitions, but also thanks to very supporting environment and great managers, great mentors that I had during my years at Amazon, I actually managed to experience a lot of very different departments. Because every time I saw that maybe I reached some kind of a ceiling in my current position, I always got a chance to move to something new. And thanks to that, I also actually saw multiple very different departments of Amazon, ranging from its seller business and actually B2B tools, and then also to front-end customer experience with building actually customer-facing software products, then moving to Amazon Fashion, very different business unit, completely unique, I would say, at that moment for Amazon. They really didn't have well, I didn't have a clue, but pretty much close to that, how to sell fashion, right? It's a very specific business, and Amazon just went into that head first, and I was part of that amazing challenge. So that was, again, very interesting. And then back to, let's say, something a lot more structured, and something that was not a startup anymore, which was pretty much Amazon Fashion startup within a company, but then back to kind of something that is really about the scale of Amazon for international expansions, which was my most recent role before I left the company. So thanks to that, I actually managed to see all these very different types of businesses, very different leadership styles, and that definitely wasn't a walk in the park, right? It was quite a difficult journey at times, but that definitely helped me tremendously to grow as a leader. And after Amazon, I decided to try something completely new. I really wanted just to change the industry and also change, let's say, the type of company, because as I already said, most of my career was spent in actually big companies, international companies. So I moved then to a scale up, because I wanted to see how you can actually help a company that was maybe just a startup a few years back, but now on this growth journey, how can I help them really get there, right? And that was also pretty exciting time for me, like when I spent at Kiwi.com. Again, completely different industry, travel technology, but was a huge opportunity for me to just experience something again completely new. So you see, there is a pattern, right? I think now that I'm just reflecting on what I'm saying, I'm super curious about new stuff, right? This is what really shaped up my leadership journey. It's not that I was specifically, hunting for promotions or always having my next big step in mind. No, I was really following my passion most of the time. I was following what I was interested in and just looking for some learning opportunities. And that's what really got me here, right? So, because with every new opportunity, you usually really also get a chance to show your strengths and exhibit how fast you can grow and how fast you can scale. And with that, you get increased responsibilities. So my team size also grew pretty much exponential in the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, from small teams of like 3-4 people to now an organization of almost 300 people at Stellantis, which is again kind of a great step for me. Completely new industry again, automotive, and at this pivotal moment, I would say, in the industry where we observe this amazing transformation when automotive companies are really racing into the future, trying to embrace the digital part of customer experience. And it's amazing to be a part of that.
Yeah, and then so picking up on this, so recently I attended this conference, fantastic conference in Stuttgart, which I know you were actually invited to be a speaker at, Women in the Automotive, where we had many representatives of biggest automotive businesses, and the idea was to explore how to drive greater diversity in the automotive industry. And one of the challenges, as stated there, is that women don't find automotive attractive, which I'm surprised because it is a fascinating industry for me. So maybe to promote kind of the industry to women, could you say, so what's your job about? What do you do in your job? What's your objective? What's fascinating about it? What are the fascinating projects that you're part of or working on, just to kind of help bring, what Stellantis and similar companies do into life?
It's a very good question. So, first of all, maybe just to the premise, right? Why do some women not find automotive attractive? Well, I don't want to conceal anything. Automotive is still, let's say, a male-dominated industry. Just looking at the sheer numbers, that's our reality. Every time I walk into an important meeting, let's say executive level meeting, I'm one of very few women there. That's just what it is, right? But that is pretty much the case for most of the tech industry, right? And overall software industry is not much different. But the situation is changing. The important part why automotive also realizes that diversity truly matters is actually because we, as an industry, really need to properly target our changing customer base. For a lot of traditional car manufacturers, I'm sad to say that, but their standard customer audience is dying out, right? And for a lot of them, the average age of their customers is just something in the 60s. That's not great. And they are also looking at the, let's say, gender diversity of their customers, also pretty much skewed towards men. But women drive more and more. This flexibility of movement is super important. It's getting to be even more important in the countries, let's say, outside of our most traditional markets, outside Europe, outside US, women are driving more and more. Young women are driving, and they want to be seen. They want to see that the products that are on the market actually meet their needs. It is, I would say, hidden. It's not maybe top of mind for a lot of people, but it is there. This tendency is there, and we need to address it. We need to really jump on it to make sure that as a company, as an industry, we actually address this changing trend. And so, again, big companies, in all fairness, right? A lot of things that they do because of profit opportunities, right? Of course, there are certain things out of the goodness of their hearts, but at the end of the day, it's all about profit opportunities. And diversity matters right now for profit opportunities as well. So this is a great moment, I would say, for women in the industry. And coming back to what Stellantis is doing in particular, we actually have a very clear targets that were stated at the moment when the company was created, right? As you mentioned, Anna, Stellantis may not be a household name, but actually the brands that we have, they definitely are. So Stellantis is a merger that happened almost 2 years ago, a bit more than 2 years ago, and it's a merger between multiple car manufacturing brands, right? It's 14 iconic brands that we have in our portfolio. So when this merger was going forward, we have committed to certain targets, including actually a diversity target. And I'm happy to see that this is truly being executed, and that the leadership of the company is absolutely committed to this goal, to this diversity goal. And so, of course, we have some ups and downs. And as you mentioned, sometimes it's probably not the most attractive industry for women and other minority groups, but the situation is changing. Automotive is becoming more and more exciting, more and more high technology driven, also software driven. And so I'm really glad to see that, for instance, during the course of this year, we had multiple talented and driven women who joined our extended Stellantis team. So it's really great to observe this trend.
It's a business critical decision driving greater diversity in the automotive industry. And so I'll go back again to the question. If you had to sell it, joining your business, joining automotive in general to a woman, what do you find most fascinating in your role? I don't know how much you can share. Maybe there are some things you cannot share that you're working on right now. But I don't know, an example of a most interesting project you are working on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that overall, what we are doing in software is really exciting today. So first of all, the journey really started with this whole notion of software-defined vehicle and also digital twins. So how do we make sure that when we start building a car, we actually think not hardware, but software first, right? So until recently, software-defined vehicle, it didn't really make any sense because software used to be an afterthought. Now it's actually in the forefront. And also everything that is, let's say, happening around the car in the industry, for instance, all the safety mechanisms, all the validations, all those things that used to make car manufacturers have really long lead times, like 5 years, for instance, from concept to actually vehicle hitting the road. Now, thanks to software, those cycles are dramatically reduced. And this is precisely also what my team is working on. But apart from that, we are actually building a lot of customer-facing software. So when you think about autonomous driving, for instance, this is one of the exciting parts of my job, really just working together with my team, our customers around the globe. right? One of the challenges
Mhm.
that I'm facing with my team is that we have customers pretty much everywhere, in every segment, in almost every country in the world. And our 14 brands, they really address, let's say, the full demographics, right? So we are thinking from extreme luxury with Maserati to
Mhm.
more affordable options, for instance, with Citroën. But for my team, it really has this kind of unique challenge that, on the one hand, we really need to think about reducing complexity, because we don't want our software costs to skyrocket, right? We want to still keep certain options affordable for our customers. And for that, we want to make sure that we actually have certain building blocks that can be reused from one brand to another.
Mhm.
But at the same time, we want to have enough building blocks and we want to have enough customization opportunities so that every specific brand has really an opportunity to shine, to keep kind of sustaining their identity, because some of our
Mhm.
brands have been around for more than 100 years, like Peugeot, for
Mhm.
instance. Just think about it, right? More than 100
Mhm.
years. That's pretty much when
Mhm.
the first cars just were invented.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
when you think about that, especially for the autonomous driving, right? There are just so many variances. Also, country to country, but let's say also big city to countryside.
Mhm.
I live in a city, so to me, for instance, and to customers similar to me, it's actually very important to also have uh, extra parking features, right? Just think
Mhm.
about last time you had to park in a tight spot. So all
Mhm.
that kind of camera support, parking support, that is important. So valet parking will be even better, right? And
Mhm.
software can do all that. But you need to be cautious about, the customer segments, what customers would actually need that stuff and which one would not. In the US, for instance, especially in the countryside, you have ample parking possibilities. You don't really need to worry. You don't need to be a
Mhm.
great driver. You will always find somewhere to park. It's totally okay. And if you come to the city, you will actually have like real valet parking, not software one, but with a real person who will take your
Mhm.
keys and just
Mhm.
park your car for you. So
Mhm.
that's again something that I find super exciting about my job and super exciting about specifically product management in automotive today, that we get to know our customers much better. We also get to see a lot more signals from them, because vehicles today, they are connected. So we actually receive a lot of data about customer behavior, what the cars are doing, what the driver is doing, and thanks to all this data, we can learn um, driving patterns. We can get to know our customers much better,
Mhm.
and it's super exciting to really observe
Mhm.
how the world is changing, how driver behavior is changing, and how from our side we can actually uh, jump on this transformation trend and build products that will meet the needs of our customers also going forward.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually the way you described it right now, I think it goes back to what you said at the beginning, that your role is or your career has been an interception of technology, psychology, and change management, right? I
Yes,
think I
yes.
think you can clearly see that in the
It's my
example
sweet
that you've
spot. Yes,
just
yes.
they've just talked about. Go back to what you said earlier about Amazon. Because you said how successful I mean, clearly it is a very successful company. It has been in all MBA case studies, to be explored. It's I mean, its revenue success is just beyond impressive. But what you said was interesting. How good they are in the fast growth they have achieved, to have maintained a strong culture through their leadership principles. Um, what's your biggest learning from that? What would you advise to other leaders when it comes to creating unified culture, because a lot of organizations are trying to do that and are figuring how to do that. All organizations have key leadership principles, but what makes it different between a company that does it successful and a company that doesn't?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the difference is really simple. The companies that only have their principles written on the wall, no, that's not enough, right? The companies that actually have all their processes and mechanisms that they have to, let's say, sustain those processes, if leadership principles are truly integrated into all this process, the process are thought through with those leadership principles in mind. All the hiring is also done with all those leadership principles in mind, so that people who come in, they also really have those, let's say, ingrained features, or at least they show the interest to learn this type of behaviors, right, that you have in your leadership principle. Also, all performance appraisals are also done with those leadership principles in mind, so that the way you measure success, it's not just about numbers, it's also about behaviors that actually match the culture that you preach, right? So that's really all it is about, because it's not easy. It's super easy to agree on a list of principles and just forget about them, but it's actually hard to keep them in mind, really like top of mind every day, especially for the leadership team, and then make sure that you talk about that to your teams regularly, that when you praise for something, you praise in connection to those leadership principles. When you, for instance, maybe like a bad situation, right, you have to let go somebody for bad performance, it's also not just about the numbers, it's also maybe about the behaviors that they exhibit that contradict your leadership principles. When you think about how to build collaboration between your teams, you also build them with regards to leadership principles. So for instance, right, there is this one important principle for Amazon, disagree and commit. And it's not just something written on paper, it's something that people really live by every day. If you don't like whatever decision, but you were a part of this decision, you got to say your piece, but then the decision still went the other way. You would say, yes, okay, I disagree and commit, and you will actually stick to that. And if you don't, people will remind you that you actually already, like, you committed. So what's going on, huh? And that stuff is important. And at Stellantis, we actually, I would say, we are definitely doing a lot of that today, right? We are thinking about how we also integrate our diversity into our values, how we think about working together as a team, winning as a team, as part of our values. Because in many cases, I would say companies similar to Stellantis, they would suffer a lot from people not talking to each other, right? This siloed mentality, especially after a merger. Super easy to just stay in your lane and not even try to talk to people on the other side, right? And Stellantis is actively pushing people to actually behave as a team and reminding everybody that only as a team we would actually be able to win, and specifically only as a diverse team. And then we have practical targets, right? So when it comes to hiring, when it comes to also, well, I mean, we definitely have meritocracy, but we want to make sure that when we review performance results, we always have a specific conversation about women and minorities. When we think about hiring, we always give a chance and specifically seek out female and minority candidates, right? So at the end of the day, the best candidate will always get hired, irrespective of their gender, nationality, and whatnot. But we need to make sure that women at least get through the door, right? They might not get to the executive floor, Some of that will still be meritocracy driven, but at least we want to make sure that everybody truly has a chance. And you can only get there if you actually pay attention to your diversity goals and not just put it as a company value on the wall somewhere.
Okay, so we have nicely moved on to the topic of diversity. So I'll progress from that thread. When we chatted before the recording today, you said that, in your opinion, companies are still not doing enough for diversity. So I'm curious to explore a little bit more. What do you think companies should be doing more of? And also, always like to bring a good example as well. So maybe if you want to share a couple of examples of particularly impactful initiatives that companies are doing, you've seen doing, and then what do they do wrong? What do they need to do more of so we can really reach goals of diversity?
Yeah, that's a great one. And I actually have, I would say, a very positive example that comes from still my times at Amazon, where I got a privilege to work with a leader who was really dedicated to pursuing diversity goals. And so I have a pretty high benchmark, I would say, right? But I do see that in my current position, we are also pursuing multiple initiatives. But I think a lot of companies out there, for them, diversity is a statement, but it's not a measurable goal that people truly work towards. And that's a mistake. If you can't measure something, you will never achieve it. So it all really starts from the basics, right? You need to get into the rhythm of really understanding what the situation with diversity is at your company. You need to be able to measure it. You need to be able to set clear targets and then measure progress and discuss blockers on a regular basis. And this needs to come from the top, really. This needs to come from the leadership. And you need to dedicate time to that. You need to have resources assigned to that. So really the best practices that I've observed is you would actually have specific roles for that, right? You would have diversity and inclusion managers, project managers, leaders who actually have it as their job, their daily job, right? In many companies, diversity is something like a hobby, right? There is some organization, some team, and this team in their free time is trying to put some events together, some mentorship programs, and so on, which is great. It's much better than doing nothing. So those things help. I'm not trying to say that they don't. They matter a lot. And if you are part of those volunteer groups, kudos to you, right? Because you do your full-time job, and then on top of that, still kind of as part of your employment in that particular company, you're actually doing this diversity bit that at the end of the day also benefits the company, right? It benefits the company, not just you. But still, it kind of is perceived as something like a volunteer activity, which is not true, in my opinion, right? So that's kind of the summary that I would then put together. When you talk about diversity initiatives, it needs to be measurable, it needs to be supported from the top, and it needs to be resourced. There needs to be budget, there needs to be headcount, there need to be clear objectives and key results. And when there are blockers, again, leadership needs to help resolve them.
And what have you seen as key obstacles to achieving diversity? I don't know. Can you pinpoint specific things? Except, of course, so we just discussed clear goals, measurement, commitment from the leadership team, and devoting resources to that. I speak to a lot of people, and I think a lot of organizations are doing fantastic work, but still there's still a lot of people a little bit resistant, a little bit not believing, a little bit tired of this topic. and
Yeah.
and I mean, the numbers are better, but still I think not as good as we would want them to see. um have you seen particular blockers that you could, I don't know, share, and warn other leaders against, hey, look out for it. This I've seen this has been really, an obstacle for and could be easily solved.
I think so, yes. So, first of all, it could be really this, wrong understanding of meritocracy. What I'm trying to say here is that meritocracy definitely matters. And
Mm-hmm.
so you can always argue that you don't need any kind of diversity inclusion targets. Cream raises to the top, and
Mm-hmm.
if these women are great, they will get to great positions by themselves, right? You don't need to treat
Mm-hmm.
people differently just because of their gender or nationality or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you think like that, you ignore a super important factor, that the starting conditions are different, right? This is when we go back to diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? You actually need to create a level playing field for people.
Mm-hmm.
And the playing field is not leveled. I mean, let's be honest, right? Management at your company is male, maybe white, maybe straight.
Mm-hmm.
They will have certain biases, unconscious biases. We all have them, which means that, again, unconsciously, they will support the careers of people that are like them. So again, the playing field is not leveled. When you think that meritocracy is really just making everything completely blind in terms of hiring, in terms of promotions, then you would actually have to create the conditions that would enable this level playing field. In corporate life, it's very difficult. If we remember that experiment with symphonic orchestras, right?
Mm-hmm.
When at some point in the 20th century, it was noticed that there are just not enough women, and everybody was just saying, yeah, but that's normal. Women are probably not such great musicians as men. And then they had blind auditions, right? Blind
Mm-hmm.
auditions. Again, in the orchestra, it's possible to do that. I don't think you can have blind auditions when you're selected for a management position in the corporation. But okay, so, and as a result of those blind auditions, it was immediately clear that the number of women that were selected for the orchestras, the best orchestras in the world, it just increased dramatically right away.
Mm-hmm.
So all these people who thought that they are judging in the auditions based on merits only, they were actually wrong, because they ignored their own unconscious biases. So this is one super important policy that I would like to warn everybody against. It's not that we are bad people or anything, that we consciously want to diminish a certain segment of society or certain segment of our employees, but this comes unconsciously. Sometimes it comes from the system that we have, and as long as we don't measure things, don't set up clear goals to change the situation, nothing will change in the system, and nothing will change with our unconscious bias.
Very nicely said. Yeah, and there's another study that uh, there was a written career history and experience of a person, of a leader, what they did, how they behaved, how they spoke to people. And one group of respondents read that with the name of that person being male, and the other group of respondents read that with the name of that person, described person, being female. And when viewing the male, he was described as charismatic, strong, trustworthy, good leader. And the group that got exactly same description but with the name being female described her as aggressive, too demanding, not trustworthy. So, and this just demonstrate the biases that that same behavior, if a man demonstrated, we view it as good leadership behavior, and that same behavior that woman demonstrates, we don't view it that way, we view it negatively. And so then, talking about the level playing field, as a woman noticing that unconsciously, you might, be prone to changing your behavior, to changing the way, um, the way you speak to people, the way you behave, the way you manage, the way you lead. That already puts you a little bit at the lower level, because as a man, you walked into the room, you don't have to do much. You just do your job technically well, and that's it. And you're perceived immediately as a better leader. As a woman, not only you have to do a good job technically, but you also have to think about how you come across. You have to think about it way more than a man would have to think about it, not to be viewed negatively for doing exactly the same things. And I personally, I never thought that was the case. I never liked to talk about things like that, saying that I'm at a worse position because I'm a woman. But studies show that over and over and over again. And that's what I'm discussing always with people. Hey, it's really difficult to objectively for me say that that's the case without sounding that I want a privileged um, treatment. I don't. But if studies show that over and over and over again, well, there is something about that. And that coupled with the numbers, maybe we should look into that. That's always my, view on this.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And as you said, it's actually very difficult to notice about yourself,
Mm.
because those things happen kind of slowly, that you adopt more and more behaviors that are actually not authentic to you. But then it means that you are, well, first of all, you are not even becoming somewhere else, but you are behaving as someone else. And that means that, first of all, there is a huge extra mental load that you have to carry, right? So just the extra workload that you mentioned. But also, you are probably a worse leader as a result of that, because you're just not authentic enough. Yeah, you're not true to yourself. And I just have this small example, recent example that was kind of eye-opening for me, and goes along the same lines. How do we change our behaviors to fit in better? So I didn't even realize that, but my vocal coach pointed out to me that I speak in a much lower register in professional situations versus how I speak at home, with friends, with my husband. And that actually damages my voice. That is that is not great for my health, even, because it seems to be a small thing. And actually a lot of women do that, because apparently somebody told us, I don't know if that's true, that men listen better when you speak in a lower register, because otherwise it's kind of too abrasive, too high pitch, whatever, right? And I don't know if that's true, but that's what they say, right? And I actually even, I think, had it said to me in some female leadership training some years ago. And apparently it stuck with me. Apparently I'm doing that completely subconsciously. I don't even notice it anymore, but it actually damages my voice. It makes me get tired much faster. And, with the amount of meetings that I have all day in my position, I have to speak like 10 hours a day, right, in a row, in meetings. And then, of course, by the end of the day, I can't really talk at all. But it's happening because I'm not authentic. I'm actually modifying the register of my voice to fit in better. It's kind of horrible when you think about that.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that. My previous guest actually told me she was told by someone that her voice is too high pitched, which I mean, I have no comments to that. But it's interesting that you're saying that, because again, how to demonstrate that to people so they take it seriously, because sometimes it might come across as complaining maybe I think about things that aren't relevant. But if, for example, your voice coach says it is damaging your voice, changing the tone, or lowering the tone throughout 10 hours a day of meetings, it just shows that little things like this, one after another, put so much more emotional weight on you versus someone who just doesn't have to and have never had to think about it. And again, it's nobody's fault. It's generations of upbringing and stereotypes and images we've been growing up with. But the point is, we should be talking about it because these things are real. Do we have time for one last question?
Yes, absolutely. And just let me jump in here with one quick
Uh-huh.
comment. When you said
Uh-huh.
like it's not anybody's fault in particular, it's really
Mhm.
the system that was created over
Mhm.
generations. At some point in the
Mhm.
past, that system probably worked. It just
Mhm.
doesn't anymore. And again, just wanted to mention one interesting fact. Even let's say the best people around us, for sometimes they just don't even realize how
Mhm.
broken the system is towards women and minorities. There is a great book that talks a lot about it. It's called Invisible Women, and I highly
Mhm.
recommend everybody to read that because it's full of facts, statistics.
Mhm.
It's super objective, and it just shows a pretty drastic picture. So everybody who read it, male, female, doesn't matter, but they just can't ignore those issues anymore.
Mhm.
And this
Mhm.
is really, in my opinion, the way to get ahead and to keep improving the situation step by
Mhm.
step. First, just bring awareness,
Mhm.
and with awareness, you will hopefully constantly check yourself and remove the biases that you might have as well.
Awareness is the first step to everything, isn't it? And thank you for the recommendation. We'll put a link when you put the podcast out to the book. Definitely worth a read. And I'll finish with a final question. Previously, when we talked, you said that you have a lot of women reaching out to you because they see you as a role model. They're asking you for advice. So I'm curious to know what what are the typical things they're asking you for? What do they need help with? And how do you support maybe and mentor these aspiring female leaders?
Yeah, so the typical things are really, I would say, maybe two categories, right? One
Mm.
is completely, let's say, agnostic of the fact that they're women. They're just interested in growing their careers, and rightfully so. And sometimes they come to me because they don't really have enough of a support system. They don't have a supporting manager. Maybe the career ladder in their company is not entirely clear, which is still unfortunately the case in many companies. And so they simply just they don't understand like what are the rules of the game? How do I play this game? If I'm in a corporate environment and I want to get ahead, how do I even do that? Where do I even start? And quite frankly, the rules are, I would say, pretty simple. There are many articles already written about it. LinkedIn is full of great influencers that can help you. But of course, sometimes just talking to someone who, let's say, did this in the past can help a lot. So that's, I would say, the first category of questions. And a simple answer there is really just do some more research, understand better what could be like different career ladders and what is the career ladder in your company. What are the rules to actually practically get promoted? What are the networking opportunities to get to know about maybe some positions where you can move laterally, or some projects that you can pick up to, let's say, boost your profile, stuff like that, right? So it's really not rocket science, but you need to know that those things, they're not super intuitive, right? And then I would say second category of questions is really more specific towards maybe female leadership, right? And it goes back to what we just discussed. So let's say I'm an aspiring female leader, or I just have my first leadership position, and I work in a male-dominated environment, and I don't really know how to navigate it. Or maybe I have an idea how to navigate it, but it feels like I will be betraying my true self if I do that, because it feels like I'm pushed into this kind of super standard behavior that all the guys around me are exhibiting. And I don't want to do that because I want to stay authentic, but I don't really have any female role models around me that would actually be authentic women and connected to also their emotional part, but still they remain strong leaders. A lot of women that come to me for advice, they don't have these role models, and I know that it's hard. I also didn't have too many of them, let's say 10 years, 15 years back, but we see more and more of them now, which is great, right? I follow some of the amazing women who are role model for me on LinkedIn. We see some of them also around us in leadership positions in big companies, and that is truly great. This is inspiring. But still, I think this is why the institution of mentorship is so critical, that you actually get to come to somebody and ask for advice, and you can just have a human conversation.
Yes. Yeah, and thank you very much for this. It's thank you for the whole conversation. It's been very, very, very interesting. I'll finish on that. It's been, I mean, your story is very fascinating. I imagine you had a lot of fun as well. It's
Absolutely.
exciting experience you've had, and thank you so much for for your insights. It's inspiring to see that you're such a proactive advocate for DEI. So it was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
That's it for this month's Ways Women Lead episode. But there is plenty more insightful and actionable advice from where this podcast came from. Check out our website on www.six-group.com if you'd like to know more about how to build and develop diverse, inclusive, and effective leadership teams, and how to progress your career as a leader. See you next time.